By the end of this video, you're going to know about the 4 types of assets that you need to own and how to differentiate whether it's an asset or not. Are you between the ages of 19 and 39 and you don't know where your money's going? Well, today I'm going to teach you one aspect of the overall picture, which is 4 types of assets that you need to know about and own. This is the first episode of 3-episode series that's going to teach you about how much you're worth according to money and math. What are tangible assets? That's our first category today and first type of asset. These are tangible assets. So I'll give you some examples on the board here. Tangible assets are anything you can touch and that is of physical nature. So you have over here a house, for example, that's a tangible item. You have your vehicle, so you can touch the vehicle, drive the vehicle, so it's a tangible item. As well, you have furniture and you have electronics and jewelry and any kind of inventory. Talking more about business, I know you may not have any inventory unless you're running a business, but this is an example of what tangible assets are, anything you can touch. What are intangible assets and how can you define these? These are examples of intangible assets, stuff that you can't touch, maybe in the bank, maybe in your crypto portfolio, but you have cryptocurrency, you have your Ethereum, you have your XRP, and Bitcoin is intangible assets, as well as the NFTs that you may have invested in a while ago. So this is something that you can't touch, but it's worth value if you convert it to cash. So why am I telling you about tangible and intangible assets? Well, you're going to have to think about this because in this episode I'm talking about assets and how to correctly identify the assets. In my next video I'm going to talk about liabilities, and in my final video in this series I'm going to talk about your net worth and how to put it all together so that you can see the overall picture. So what's the difference in a liquid and an illiquid asset? Well, you're about to find out. Here's what a liquid asset is. These are liquid assets. These are assets that can easily be converted to cash in your hand. So this has an immediate value that you can retain in cash value. Cash is number 1. Checking account. So your checking account, you can go into the bank, say, hey, I'd like to have $40. I have something I need to do this weekend. You have a savings account that you could liquidate, which is a liquid asset, very easily convertible to cash. Money market accounts also might take 1 day, maybe 2 days to transfer into your account, but also considered a liquid item. This is going to explain to you what an illiquid asset is and why you need to correctly identify this type of asset. These are examples of illiquid assets. For example, real estate. It takes a long time to sell a piece of real estate. So if you have a house that you own and you've been through this before, you may know. Or if you don't have a house, take for example, it takes 30 days to sell a house at the very minimum. Could be 60 days. So you work with your real estate agent and you work with the buyer of the property indirectly, and you can sell your real estate. But keep in mind that this is not something that you can liquidate very easily. A retirement account. So if you have a Roth IRA, then your retirement account is actually illiquid because of the penalties that might be put onto that money if you don't reach your 59.5 age to pull out your retirement fund. There's actually a penalty involved for pulling money out. Also, your vehicle. You have to list it online, whether that's your Facebook marketplace or in the newspaper, somewhere. It's going to have to be listed. You're going to have to find your buyer, and then at that point they're going to have to bring the cash or the loan and then be able to pay you for that vehicle. So it takes some time to process this type of transaction. Another one is collectibles and valuables. So this is just a generic account, but collectibles, sometimes it takes a while to find somebody to buy your product because that Beanie Baby that is very rare then you maybe can't sell that for a while. Maybe it's worth $1,000 or maybe $1,200 and you listed it online. It's going to take a long time to sell that. Keep that in mind. So let me explain to you a little bit about the liquid and illiquid assets. So you're going to need to know the difference between the two. Let's say that you don't want to stay within the country that you're in and you want to liquidate your assets and you want to move to another country. You're going to need to know which ones are liquid and illiquid based on your time frames about how long you decide to stay into your country or your state even. So let's take, for instance, you own a car and you want to live in miles and miles away, or maybe it takes a plane to get to where you need to go. Well, you're going to have to sell your car at some point, so that's something you need to think about, having an illiquid asset like a vehicle and trying to sell that in the open market to get fair market value. This is something that you need to know. Take, for instance, you're part of the FIRE movement. So the FIRE movement is defined as an acronym, and this is for people that want an accelerated retirement program, or actually the amount of years it takes to retire. Normal people in the United States generally work till about 60, 63, sometimes a little bit longer depending on how much money they have in their retirement fund. So during the FIRE movement, they want to accelerate that and they want to make it so that the time frame is a lot shorter. So they need to know which assets are liquid and which ones are illiquid based on the date they want to retire and when they could pull this money out. Some of you may not have heard about the FIRE movement, but it's Financially Independent Retire Early. It's just an acronym for I don't want to work until I'm 63. So that's basically what it means. And some people think this is a good idea, so they pack a lot of money away into their retirement. Is it a good idea? Well, that's up for speculation, really, depending on what type of life you want to live. So that's where you need to know about liquid and illiquid assets. So depending on what year and day you want to retire, when can you liquidate your funds? It's called liquidating, turning them into cash. If you have an illiquid item, you need to take time to, let's say, list your vehicle, list your house. You want to retire somewhere else. You don't want to be in this state or country that you currently live in. So you need to sell that vehicle and sell that house, and then you need to go, because this is what you want to do. You want to go move to that other area. So that's when you need to know what liquid and illiquid are. And you have this beautiful Corvette here. Your car and your vehicle can be an asset at a certain point in time, and I'll explain why. This is how much this Corvette's generally worth on the open market. So if you're to list it for $65,000, you would sell this vehicle for $65,000. Let's say you've made quite a few payments and you owe the bank only $18,000. So what is that net at the end? It's $47,000. That's an asset to you. So you have an illiquid asset that can be turned into cash for $47,000. There's your final asset price. So let's take, for instance, that your equity grows, and we're going to use this example of the Corvette, and you start off with owing the bank $18,000. Well, each year that you make payments on it, it continues to increase your asset value on the vehicle. So your equity that you have in the vehicle, I'll let you see the whole chart here. Every year you pay on it, you continue to gain more of that asset, and it becomes less of a liability. Actually, technically speaking, the vehicle is categorized as an asset itself, and the loan on the vehicle is considered the liability portion. But together as a full package, you get either an asset together or a liability together if you owe more on the vehicle. And I'll talk more about liabilities in the next episode. You're probably saying, Greg, I don't need to know really all about the types. That's cool, that's great, but tell me just what do I need to invest in to be better? What increases in value year over year? Well, I'll tell you what, I did a little bit of research on this and I found a few, not to guarantee anything, but just to let you know that there are actual items that generally appreciate year over year with a few exceptions. Number one, index funds. Index funds are stocks within a portfolio that you can own and that you can invest in over a long period of time. I could speak more about that, but in the general, that category is something you can invest in and gain year after year after year. Another item that increases year after year is a house that you own. So generally they increase year after year, but keep in mind that in 2009 they didn't. The market crashed and a lot of the houses lost their value. So there are exceptions to this rule. However, they have come up and a multiplying factor since then, so they've increased exponentially in value since that point in time. For some reason, I looked this up and I'm not a person that wants to own this, but you can own farmland. Farmland is something that is said to increase in value year after year. And I guess people, pass this on to their next generation of their sons or daughters so that they can have the farmland, and that just continues to increase in value. Keep in mind there's taxes on this, so there's actual fees and different things on this asset, but something to know. Another asset that continues to go up year after year is a high yield savings account. In general, right now, the high yield savings accounts are right under 4%. So think about 4% of your money increasing year over year. This could be a little bit more than inflation. Inflation is said to be right around 3% on average. Maybe less, maybe more, depending on the year. Another asset that you can invest in would be gold or silver or precious metals. That's something else also that has increased over time. Has it increased as fast as other assets? No, but steady increase over time. I also looked this up, and be aware that rare collectibles are something you can invest in, but think about Beanie Babies. That was really cool. That was awesome. At one point in time, they just crashed and lost their value. So think about items that keep their value over time and invest in collectibles with caution. This is something I wanted to equip you with. I wanted to equip you with the knowledge of assets so that you know what assets are. They're good inside your portfolio. There's something that you need to have or should have. Money, whether that's a house, whether that's your investment funds. You need to have this to make your net worth increase. So assets are good. In the next video, I'm going to talk about liabilities, and that's going to be something that brings down your net worth. So stay tuned till the next episode so I can explain more about liabilities to you.